My name is Melody Mark. I'm 29, live just outside Austin, Texas, and until 3 weeks ago, I had $63,500 saved in a special account. My freedom fund, I called it. 6 years of grinding overtime hours, skipping vacations, saying no to brunches and happy hours, all for one goal, to buy my first home. Nothing fancy, just a little two-bedroom in Round Rock with a yard for a rescue dog and maybe a hammock. But in 60 seconds, everything I'd built vanished. I remember the moment down to the smell of my coffee. It was a quiet Saturday morning, sunlight pouring through the blinds. I sat at my tiny kitchen table in my rented apartment, opened my banking app like I always did, just to check the balance before meeting my realtor. The screen blinked, then loaded, my balance. 227. Not 63,500, or not even close. At first I thought it was a glitch. I logged out, refreshed, even checked my Wi-Fi. Same number, same sinking feeling in my stomach. I called the bank, heart pounding. The rep pulled up my file and said, "Yes, Miss Mark, you made a withdrawal at our downtown branch yesterday." I hadn't been downtown in weeks, and I sure as hell hadn't withdrawn 63 grand. She said the withdrawal was made in person, with ID, with my signature, with my security info. I was frozen, confused, terrified. Then she added something that made the blood drain from my face. The cashier's check was made payable to Lux Auto Imports. That's when I knew. It wasn't a hacker, it wasn't a scam. It was someone who knew me, knew my passwords, knew exactly what I'd saved and how to take it. And the worst part? I was about to find out that my own family had helped her do it. Growing up, I learned early that in my family, being the strong one meant being invisible. I wasn't the loud one. I wasn't the beautiful one. I wasn't the one who cried when things didn't go her way. That was Lily's role, my younger sister. 2 years behind me, but always 10 steps ahead in the spotlight. Me? I was the quiet achiever. The one who got straight A's without anyone asking. The one who cleaned up after dinner while my parents fawned over Lily's new makeup tutorial. I learned to measure praise and eye contact and expectations, not applause. My parents, Steve and Rebecca Mark, ran a small family law practice in Central Texas. Professionals. Polite. But behind closed doors, they made it clear who needed more support. And it was never me. When I got into Brown University on a partial scholarship, I was thrilled. I'd busted my butt through AP classes, extracurriculars, and SAT prep every weekend. But when I told my parents, their reaction was muted. No hugs, no balloons. Just a somber dinner where they gently explained that Lily had been going through a mental health spiral, and they'd spent the college fund on her wellness retreat in Malibu. A wellness retreat. So I gave up Brown. I took the in-state offer from UT Austin instead and worked 2 jobs, barista at a 5:30 a.m. coffee shift and tutoring calculus at night. I made it work. I always made it work. Debt became my roommate, stress was my shadow. While Lily dropped out of college in year 2, after spending 3 semesters changing majors and finding herself, I graduated early with a double major in finance and statistics. No fanfare. Just a quiet, tired smile from my mom and my dad saying, "Of course you did, Mel. You've always been focused." Focused. That was the word they used when they meant emotionless, cold, capable. But deep down, I wanted what Lily got so easily: affection, attention, grace. After college, I landed a junior position at a boutique financial advisory firm in Austin. My apartment was small. My life was spreadsheets and instant oatmeal. But I was building something. Something solid, something mine. I created a plan like I always did. Every paycheck, I transferred 35% into a separate freedom fund. No exceptions, no splurges. Even when I wanted to buy a new phone or join my friends for a girls' trip to Colorado, I told myself, not yet. Stay the course. 6 years of that. 6 years of carpooling, coupon clipping, declining drinks, and saying, maybe next year. And the thing is, I wasn't bitter. Not really, because I believed in some twisted way that if I just kept being responsible long enough, someone would notice. That one day, my parents would look at me and see more than a backup plan. That Lily would call and say, "I admire you." But that day never came. What did come were countless calls from Lily asking for a quick loan to fix her ring light, or replace her mic, or pay for a course in branding psychology she never completed. Mom always called afterward, her voice soft and sweet like she was selling real estate. "She's trying so hard, Melody. Can't you help her just this once?" And I always said no, politely, firmly, because I knew where those rabbit holes led. I'd seen it for years. What I didn't know was that saying no wasn't enough, that eventually Lily and my parents would just take it instead. But back then, I still believed in the merit of being the good one, the achiever, the adult. I remember when I hit the $50,000 mark in my savings account. I sat on the floor of my apartment with a cheap bottle of wine, toast in hand, and cried. Not because of the number itself, but because I had done it. I had taken all their doubt, all their silence, and turned it into equity. I started looking at listings in Round Rock. Nothing huge, just a 2-bedroom with a backyard and a kitchen I could renovate myself. I printed out photos, taped them to my fridge. Every time I opened it to grab my budget-friendly meal prep, I reminded myself, "You're almost there, just a little longer." That was my life, structure, sacrifice, and silent victories. I didn't post my journey online. I didn't vlog my financial routines. I just lived them. So when I shared at that family BBQ that I was close to buying a house, it felt like a breakthrough. Lily actually looked up from her phone and asked questions. My dad toasted to Mel finally slowing down and settling in. Mom smiled in that way she does when she's pretending to understand my world. And I let my guard down. I gave too many details. I said the name of my bank. I joked about my 6-digit verification code being impossible to remember. And they remembered. That was the crack in the dam. I'd spent my life proving I was capable, trustworthy, resilient. But I never realized those same qualities made me a target. Being the responsible one didn't make me safe. It just made me easier to exploit. So, yes, I was the overachiever. The invisible backbone. And that's exactly why they never thought I'd fight back. But they were wrong. Because this time, I wasn't just saving money. I was about to start saving myself. Lily Mark has always been chaos wrapped in pink lip gloss and perfectly timed tears. She was born 2 years after me, but she might as well have been born into a completely different family. Where I got structure, expectations, and "we're proud of you, but that's what we expect," Lily got freedom, softness, and second chances. She was magnetic, no doubt about it. Even as a kid, she had this energy, a way of walking into a room like she owned it, of making teachers laugh at her excuses and convincing strangers to give her free cookies. People adored Lily. They called her spirited, passionate, a free thinker. I used to call her a tornado with mascara. It started early. She threw tantrums in grocery stores, broke Mom's favorite vase during a magic show, failed algebra twice, and still got more hugs than I did for getting straight A's. "Lily's just expressive," Mom would say. "She's sensitive," Dad added. "Not everyone can handle pressure like you, Mel." By the time we were in high school, I was tutoring seniors in calculus. Lily, she was getting suspended for skipping class to go thrift shopping and develop her personal brand. But while I spent Friday nights buried in textbooks, Lily was on YouTube, filming makeup tutorials under the username Glow with Lil. Her followers were mostly bots at first, but she acted like every comment was a deal with Sephora. And our parents, they were thrilled. "She's so creative," Mom said. "She's building something modern," Dad added. "No one uses accounting degrees on TikTok, Mel." That was always the tone. Melody equals safe but boring. Lily is unstable but brilliant. After high school, I packed up my scholarship acceptance to UT Austin and a box of top ramen. Lily moved to LA for brand networking and posted Instagram photos in coffee shops with captions like "Rise Grind," funded entirely by my parents, of course. Within a year, she had burned through 3 apartments, a failed lash extension business, and a $7,000 manifestation coach program. Each time she crashed, she called home. And each time my parents sent more. They'd call me afterward, voices tight and full of guilt, asking if I could spare a little to help her get on her feet. "She just needs a little cushion, Melody. You're stable." She's still figuring it out. Stable, that word again. It started to sound like a punishment. But Lily knew exactly how to play the part. When she needed money, she became a vulnerable artist. Teary-eyed FaceTimes, long voice notes about how she felt like a failure, dramatic sighs about how no one believed in her vision, and it worked. God, did it work. Our mom once gave her $3,500 to heal her energy in Sedona after Lily said she had a spiritual block that was stopping her from becoming a lifestyle coach. Meanwhile, I was eating lentils for the 5th night in a row and patching the elbow of my only work blazer with thread I bought at a Dollar Tree. But that's how it always was. Lily didn't have to ask for forgiveness. She just existed in this space where consequences never stuck. She once borrowed my car in college and returned it with a dented fender, then cried so hard that my dad paid for the repairs and I got a lecture for not being more understanding. Another time, she maxed out a credit card she opened in my name, without asking, then blamed it on the energy of scarcity and swore she'd Venmo me soon. I didn't even report it. I should have. But the most devastating part of Lily wasn't her chaos. It was how lovable she made it look. She wasn't mean. She wasn't cruel. She just existed in this glittery bubble of, "I didn't mean to," and "Can't you just help me this once?" And because she wasn't malicious, people forgave her. That's what made her dangerous. I don't think Lily ever set out to ruin me. I don't think she woke up and thought, "Today I'll destroy my sister's dreams." But I do think that somewhere along the way, she started to believe my sacrifices were owed to her. That if I had it, she deserved to have it too. That I was the foundation and she was the decoration, and decorations don't need to ask permission. At that family BBQ, when I mentioned my house savings, Lily's eyes lit up. She asked how I tracked my finances, what app I used, what bank I trusted most. I didn't think anything of it. I thought, maybe, just maybe, she was trying to change. She even pulled me aside and said, "Mel, I really admire how you have your life together. I want to be more like you." I believed her. Stupidly. Blindly. Because that's what you do when you want to believe your family sees your worth. But now, looking back, I can see it clear as day. She was casing me. Like a thief learning the schedule of a house before breaking in. She wasn't asking because she admired me. She was gathering intel. And I gave it freely, because I thought, finally, she respected me. But Lily didn't want to be like me. She just wanted what I had, without the work. And the moment she saw a shortcut, she took it. It was the 4th of July. Hot, humid, classic Texas summer. The kind where your shirt sticks to your back before you even leave the house, and everyone's pretending they're not sweating through their jeans. My parents were hosting their annual backyard barbecue, something they've done every year since I was 12. Grilled ribs, sweet corn, my dad's famous jalapeno cornbread, and Lily's signature entrance, 20 minutes late with a fresh spray tan and zero help carrying in drinks. Normally, I showed up, brought a dish, smiled through the small talk, and left early. That was our rhythm, but this year felt different. I had a secret. A real one, a good one. After 6 long years of saving, planning, budgeting down to the last cent, I was finally on the cusp of something huge, buying my first home. And for once, I didn't want to hide it. I'd spent so much of my life downplaying my wins so I wouldn't make Lily feel less than. But that day, I felt proud, empowered, like maybe, just maybe, this was my moment to be seen. So I showed up early, in my best sundress, holding a tray of lemon bars and a printout of the Zillow listing I'd fallen in love with. A cozy two-bedroom in Round Rock, hardwood floors, a tiny backyard, and even a bay window where I imagined reading on rainy Sundays. I didn't plan to show the listing to anyone, but part of me hoped someone might ask. By the time the burgers hit the grill, my dad had cracked open a Shiner Bock, and the yard was full of uncles arguing about politics and kids splashing in a plastic pool. Classic chaos. Lily showed up fashionably late in a matching workout set and designer slides, sunglasses perched on her head like she was hiding from the paparazzi. She kissed Mom on the cheek, air-hugged me like we were co-workers, then launched into a story about how an actual celebrity liked her reel. I smiled, bit my tongue. Same Lily, but then something unusual happened. During dinner, right after my dad made one of his corny dad jokes, my mom turned to me and said, "Melody, honey, how's work? You've been at that firm for what, 5 years now?" I blinked. She never asked about work. I nodded. Almost 6. I just got a promotion in March. Senior financial analyst. My dad raised his beer. "Well, look at you, our numbers girl, moving on up." Laughter. A few claps, and then I did it. I took the bait. Or maybe I was just tired of hiding. I pulled the folded Zillow printout from my purse and placed it on the table. "I've been saving for a while," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "And I'm finally ready. I'm meeting with a realtor next week to put in an offer." The table went quiet. Then Mom leaned in, adjusting her glasses. "Oh my God, Mel, this place is adorable." Dad whistled. "Backyard and everything, that's a big step." "It's about time," Uncle Brian said. "You've been renting forever." Even Lily leaned over, tilting her head at the photo. "Wow, you're really doing this?" There was no sarcasm in her voice. Just curiosity. For a second, just one tiny second, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Included, not just tolerated. Not just expected to be okay, seen. I started explaining the numbers. How I had a down payment saved, had checked interest rates, got pre-approved for a loan. I talked about credit scores, insurance options, even the first-time homebuyer programs Texas offered. My dad nodded like he actually cared. My mom beamed. Lily even asked, "Wait, what app do you use to track all this? That sounds grown up." I laughed. "Just Mint in a spreadsheet. I've got backups for everything. I'm kind of obsessive." "You've always been that way," Mom said with a smile. "But look where it got you." For the rest of the night, they asked questions. Real ones, not just polite nods. Lily wanted to know what bank I used. She asked about verification codes, saving strategies, and if budgeting apps could link to brand income streams. I thought, maybe this was the turning point. Maybe my family was finally seeing me not just as the reliable one, the one who would be fine, but as someone worth celebrating. Maybe Lily wasn't just being nosy. Maybe she genuinely wanted to learn. Maybe we could finally be equals. When we hugged goodbye that night, Lily squeezed me tight and said, "I'm really proud of you, Mel." I believed her, because that's what hope does. It makes you ignore the red flags. Makes you soften your boundaries, makes you share the details that should have stayed private, because you think, maybe this time they mean it. Maybe this time it's different. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, is that the moment I opened that door, even a crack, they were already stepping through. Not to congratulate me, but to take what I'd built, piece by piece, bite by bite, until all that was left was the silence of an empty bank account. It happened the night before everything was supposed to begin. Sunday night. The end of a long weekend. I was sitting on the couch in my apartment, worn out but glowing. That BBQ had been the first time in years I felt included, a part of something. My family had asked about my life. Lily had hugged me. It felt, dare I say it, normal. So when I opened my laptop that night to check my bank account, I wasn't worried. I wasn't bracing for anything. I just wanted to confirm the exact balance before my meeting with the realtor the next morning. It was just another Sunday ritual. Make tea, light a candle, check my numbers, then cue up a Netflix show. I stirred a spoonful of honey into my chamomile, clicked on my bank's site, and signed in. The page took a second longer than usual to load, then the numbers appeared, and my heart stopped. Available balance, $227.16. I stared at the screen, refreshed, logged out. Logged back in, still $227.16. My brain couldn't catch up to what my eyes were seeing. I clicked into the transaction history. Maybe I'd misclicked, maybe the display was glitching, but no. There it was, $63,500 withdrawn in a single cashier's check. 2 days ago, at the downtown Austin branch. I live 20 minutes from downtown. I hadn't been near that branch in months. And yet, there it was. An authorized, completed transaction with my name on it. My hands went ice cold. My tea sat untouched. I grabbed my phone and dialed the bank's customer service line, pressed 0 repeatedly until I got a human voice. Hi, yes, I need to report a possible fraudulent withdrawal on my account, I said, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. The rep asked for my info, paused to pull up my profile. Okay, Miss Marks? I do see a large withdrawal, $63,500 in a cashier's check, was made 2 days ago at our downtown branch. I didn't authorize that, I said firmly. That wasn't me. I've never withdrawn that kind of money in person. Ever? The rep hesitated. I understand. Let me check something. I heard keys clacking. My legs started bouncing. My breath shortened. I'm showing here, she continued slowly, that the teller confirmed identity with a state-issued ID and signature on file. It was an in-person transaction. No alerts were triggered. I was stunned. That's impossible. I haven't been to that location in over a year. Did anyone else have access to your account? She asked. No one, I replied instantly. Then I paused. Because that wasn't entirely true. I remembered the BBQ, the questions, the curious tone in Lily's voice. What app do you use? What bank? Do they require a PIN or a passcode? My stomach turned. The rep's voice pulled me back. Miss Mark, I can file a fraud report and escalate this to our security team. They'll review the transaction, including any available video footage. Yes, please, do that, I said, barely above a whisper. She explained the process. 48 hours to investigate. I'd be contacted by the fraud team directly. In the meantime, they'd freeze further activity on my account. I hung up and sat there in silence. Then I opened my texts, me to Lily. Hey, can you call me ASAP? It's important. No response. Me again. Emergency, please. Nothing. I checked her Instagram. She'd posted 2 hours ago. A boomerang of a champagne glass clinking in front of a white Porsche with the caption, New week, new energy. I stared at the screen. No way, not even she would. My body moved before my brain did. I grabbed my keys, wallet, phone, and ran to my car. Drove on autopilot to her apartment complex near South Congress. The parking lot was quiet, empty. No white Porsche in sight. I circled once, twice. Then I saw it. Parked at the curb, gleaming under the streetlights like it had never known struggle. A brand new white Porsche Macan. Texas plates. Temporary tag. Purchased 2 days ago. My breath caught, and then she walked out. wearing aviators, at night of course, and a sweatsuit that probably cost more than my entire kitchen. She stopped short when she saw me, gave me a wide, casual smile. "Oh, hey," she chirped. "I was just heading out, isn't she gorgeous?" She motioned to the car like it was a pet she'd adopted. I didn't respond. Just said, "Did you take money from my account?" Her face froze for a split second. Then, she laughed. "Mel, don't be so dramatic. Answer the question." She rolled her eyes. "You're always so uptight. Yes, I took it. I needed it for the down payment." "I couldn't get approved for the full amount. That was my house fund, Lily." "I know, but you're good at saving. You'll bounce back." I felt dizzy. "You stole from me," I whispered. "You committed fraud." She gave a lazy shrug. "It's not fraud if it's family." And then came the sentence that burned into my brain forever. "Mom and Dad said it was okay." Everything went still. "What?" "They gave me your old password. I needed help answering the security questions. They said you wouldn't mind." "You're the smart one, right? The strong one?" I stood there staring at her as the Porsche beeped behind her, signaling it had locked. And just like that, my future drove off in leather seats and Bluetooth stereo. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the edge of my bed staring at my phone like it might ring and tell me this was all some nightmare. But it didn't. The next morning, I went to work, not because I could function, but because doing anything was better than sitting in silence. I sat through meetings, nodded when expected, and wrote notes I couldn't even read afterward. That afternoon, my phone finally rang. Unknown number. It was the bank's fraud department. "Miss Mark, thank you for your patience," the agent began, her voice calm, professional. "We've reviewed the transaction records and obtained the surveillance footage from the branch. I'd like to go over what we found." I could barely breathe. "Okay?" "The withdrawal was made at 11:13 a.m. 2 days before your call. A young woman presented an ID matching your name, provided your social security number, and passed multiple verbal verification questions. I knew what was coming, but I had to ask. What did she look like?" "She appeared to be in her mid to late 20s, brunette. Hair pulled back, wearing a navy blazer, glasses." That description could have been me on any day of the week. "Was it me?" I asked, almost hoping this was some long-lost identity twin. The agent paused. "We don't believe so. The person bears resemblance to you, but side-by-side comparison with your ID photo raises inconsistencies, particularly around jawline structure and eye spacing. We believe the ID was either altered or stolen." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "It gets worse," she said quietly. That's when I knew this wasn't just a bad transaction. This was an orchestrated betrayal. She struggled to provide the 6-digit security code required for transactions over $10,000. After 3 failed attempts, the teller initiated override protocol. The woman claimed the funds were for a family medical emergency. "What kind of emergency?" I asked. "She said your mother was undergoing emergency cancer surgery in Houston, that she needed the money for upfront hospital fees." My chest tightened. "My mother is perfectly healthy." "I'm sorry to hear that," she said, meaning it literally. "Did the teller ask for documentation?" "Yes, she presented a printed email from a doctor. We believe now it was fabricated." But with the ID, personal info, and the emotional nature of the request, the teller allowed the override. I couldn't blame the teller, not entirely. This wasn't just fraud, this was emotional manipulation on a professional level. What happened to the money? The funds were issued via cashier's check to Lux Auto Imports in South Austin. Paperwork confirms it was used as a down payment on a new vehicle, a 2024 Porsche Macan, white. I closed my eyes. The image of that car parked outside Lily's building flashed behind my lids like a strobe. "Is the video available?" I asked. "We can arrange for you to view it in person at your nearest branch. Would you like to do that?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. The bank manager, Mr. Parker, was already waiting when I arrived. He greeted me with a somber face. Melody, I'm so sorry this happened. I remember when you first opened your home savings account. You came in every few months like clockwork. You were so proud of every deposit. His words almost broke me. He led me into a small private office and pulled up the footage. The image was grainy but clear enough, and there she was. Lily. Hair slicked back in a tight bun, glasses. My old blazer, the one I wore to my first job interview. She walked with purpose, smiled at the teller, handed over the ID, answered the security questions with confidence. At one point, she even faked a tear. Reached into her purse, pulled out tissues like she'd rehearsed this entire scene in front of a mirror. When asked for the code, she fumbled, looked at her phone. Bit her lip, spun some story about being overwhelmed and not remembering it in the moment. Then she leaned across the counter, voice animated, showing the fake email on her phone. I watched the teller melt, slowly, then completely. Paperwork slid across the desk, pens were handed over. And then she smiled. That same lazy, satisfied smile she gave me in the parking lot. My stomach turned. The video ended. I'm so sorry, Mr. Parker repeated. We'll be filing an internal violation report regarding the teller override. You may also want to pursue this through legal channels. I nodded, not trusting my voice. But inside, something shifted. This wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just Lily being reckless or desperate. It was a calculated theft, a performance, and my parents had helped her. They gave her my old password. They coached her through security questions. They looked at her and said, "It's okay to steal from your sister." I walked out of that bank not just humiliated, but enraged. And for the first time in my life, I didn't swallow that rage. I didn't bury it. I didn't say, "It's fine," or "She's just going through a phase." No. This time, I was going to do something. I wasn't just Melody, the responsible one, anymore. I was Melody, the woman you don't mess with. I don't know what I expected when I pulled into my parents' driveway that evening. An apology, maybe, an ounce of guilt. Some kind of acknowledgement that something horrific had happened, that their two daughters had just collided in the ugliest way possible. But what I got was pot roast. The familiar smell hit me the moment I stepped onto the porch. Rosemary, garlic, slow-cooked beef. My mom's signature Sunday comfort. The scent used to bring me peace. Now it made my stomach turn. I rang the bell, even though I'd never had to before. For some reason, I couldn't bring myself to just walk in like nothing had changed. Dad opened the door, eyebrows raised. "Melody? Surprise visit?" I stepped inside, clutching the folder with the bank documents, printouts, and a still from the security footage. Mom looked up from the kitchen island. "Sweetie, what's wrong?" "You look pale." I didn't waste time. "Where's Lily?" They exchanged glances, that old familiar language of unspoken complicity. "She's upstairs freshening up," Mom said slowly. "Why?" "I know everything," I said. "The bank? The footage, the car, the password you gave her." Silence. Then Dad sighed, the long, tired kind that said, "Here she goes again. Mel, can we just sit down?" "You're upset." "Damn right I'm upset," I snapped. "She stole my entire life savings, and you helped her." Mom stepped forward, her hands up like she was calming a wild animal. "She was desperate," she said gently. "You know how hard things have been since her breakup with Logan. She was spiraling." "She wasn't spiraling," I spat. "She was rehearsing. She wore my blazer, faked my signature, used my ID. That's not a spiral. That's fraud." "She needed a new car," Dad interjected like that explained everything. "Her old Honda was breaking down. She's trying to rebuild her brand." "I was buying a house," I shouted. "My first home. I've been saving for 6 years." You're resilient, Mom said, soft and infuriating. You'll recover. That sentence hit me like a slap. You're resilient. Not we're sorry, not we were wrong, just you'll recover. Because that's what I was to them, the recoverable one, the backup daughter, the one who could take the hit so Lily didn't have to. Before I could respond, I heard heels on the stairs, and then she appeared. Lily in a silk blouse and white jeans, hair curled like she was headed to brunch. She paused at the bottom of the staircase and offered me that same dazzling, unapologetic smile she'd worn at the dealership. Hey, sis. That was it, no guilt. No shame, just hey, sis, like she hadn't detonated my future and walked away from the flames with a new purse and 300 Instagram likes. You have 5 seconds to explain yourself, I said, my voice low. She rolled her eyes. I told you I needed the money, you had it. I didn't. That's not how money works. She scoffed. You always act like I'm some villain. I was trying to survive. Survive? I repeated. You bought a Porsche. It's not about the car, she said. It's about image. I lost my last brand deal because I showed up in a beat-up Honda. This car is an investment. I stared at her, genuinely stunned. You think that's what investing means? I knew you wouldn't understand, she said, shaking her head. You've always looked down on me. I've never looked down on you, I whispered. I've just looked past the excuses. You had everything handed to you. I cut her off. No, you're thinking of yourself. And then she said it. The sentence that broke what little restraint I had left. Mom and Dad said you'd be fine, that you always bounce back. You're like financially indestructible. I turned to my parents. Is that true? They didn't answer. Answer me. Dad cleared his throat. We didn't think you'd miss it for long. Miss it? Miss it? I stepped back like the room itself had slapped me. You didn't think I'd miss the culmination of every birthday I skipped, every trip I turned down, every second job I took so I could save for a life that didn't rely on you? Mom reached for me. Sweetheart, please. I pulled away. No, you don't get to sweetheart me right now. The room went still. The only sound was the hum of the oven timer. I dropped the folder onto the counter. There's a lawyer's letter in there, I said. A demand for restitution. You have 7 days to return every cent, Lily scoffed. You're going legal. Against your own sister? No, I said coldly. Against the woman who committed identity theft. She's family, Mom hissed, like the word was a spell meant to erase damage. And I was your family too, I shot back. But apparently that only counts when I'm giving, never when I'm taking a stand. Dad's voice turned hard. If you go through with this, Melody, you're tearing this family apart. No, I said, walking toward the door. You already did that. I'm just refusing to hold it together alone anymore. And with that, I left. No more explanations, no more begging to be seen. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is finally walk away. I didn't go home after leaving my parents' house. I couldn't. The air in that house had suffocated me. All I could hear in my head were their voices echoing in circles. You'll recover. She needed it more. It's not stealing, it's family. It was like walking through a hall of mirrors where every reflection was warped and none of them showed the truth. So instead, I drove. No destination, no plan. Just asphalt, engine, and the white-hot hum of fury in my chest. At some point, I realized my hands were shaking. I pulled into a 24-hour gas station, parked in the far corner, and stared at the empty parking lot. And then I did something I rarely do. I called Jordan. She picked up on the second ring. Melody, what's wrong? That voice, steady, concerned, grounded, almost made me cry. I hadn't said a word, but she knew something was wrong. That's what real friends do. I need to talk, I whispered. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from her at our usual late-night spot, Carlson's Diner. The kind of place with sticky booths, too bright lights, and a jukebox that only plays country ballads from the 90s. But it was safe, familiar. Jordan slid a mug of coffee in front of me. Start from the beginning. So I did. I told her everything. The BBQ, the bank, the footage. The confrontation. Every word poured out of me like poison being drained from a wound. When I finished, she didn't say anything right away. She just leaned back, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. Then she said the one thing I wasn't prepared for. I should have warned you. I blinked. Warned me about what? She hesitated, then exhaled. 2 years ago, Lily messaged me on Instagram. Said she was starting a new line of cruelty-free cosmetics and needed investors. Asked if I could loan her $5,000. My stomach dropped. What? I said no. Politely. Told her I didn't have that kind of money. A week later, I noticed some weird charges on my credit card. Luxury skincare sites, social media ads, even a hotel in Miami. My mouth went dry. What did you do? I reported it as fraud, got my money back, but the credit card company traced the IP address. It came from Lily's building. I confronted her. And? She denied it, of course, said maybe someone hacked both of us. Then cried, told me she was under pressure, swore she'd pay me back, begged me not to tell you. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. You never told me. Jordan looked away. I didn't want to come between you two. You always defended her. And I thought maybe it was a one-time thing, maybe she was desperate. I sat there stunned. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just this time. This was a pattern. She's been doing this for years, I murmured. And they've been enabling her. Jordan nodded. And you've been the safety net. Every time she fell, they stretched you thinner to catch her. I leaned back, the full weight of truth settling on me like a concrete blanket. She used my ID, I whispered. My info, my account. And now I'm the bad guy for wanting it back. You're not the bad guy, Mel. You're the boundary. I looked at her. You're the first person in that family to say, no more. That scares them. Because if you stop being the responsible one, the whole system collapses. It made too much sense. The emotional math had always been stacked against me. Lily was chaos. I was control. She was the crisis. I was the solution. She breaks, I bend. She takes, I give. That's why they never questioned it. That's why they called it help instead of what it really was, abuse. You need to press charges, Jordan said quietly. I hesitated. She's my sister. And you're your own person, she replied. She stole your identity, your future. She used your trust and your family's blind spots to wipe out 6 years of your life. I stared into my coffee, tears stinging the corners of my eyes. You're right, I said finally. This isn't about the money anymore. This is about breaking the cycle. Jordan reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Michael Stein, financial attorney. He helped my cousin after her business partner drained their joint account. He's good and discreet. I took the card, read the embossed letters like they were written in fire. I wasn't just going to ask for my money back. I was going to make them all look at what they'd done. The next morning, I called Michael Stein. I expected some slick guy in a suit who'd speak in legalese and push me toward a settlement. But what I got was calm, focused, and, most importantly, furious on my behalf. After listening to my story in full, he looked across his desk and said, Melody, what your sister did wasn't a misunderstanding, it was fraud. Felony-level identity theft. And if your parents knowingly assisted her, that's conspiracy. I nodded, swallowing hard. I just want my money back. You're going to get more than that, he said, already pulling a form from his drawer. You're going to get justice. Within 2 days, Michael had drafted a formal demand letter addressed to Lily. It detailed the entire transaction, included screenshots from the bank, and stated in no uncertain terms, return the full $63,500 within 7 business days, or face civil and criminal charges. He also sent copies to my parents. Not out of spite, out of due diligence. If they were involved in any way, he said, we need them on record. I was nervous. Not about the legal process, I trusted Michael, but about the emotional bomb I'd just dropped into my family's living room. That bomb detonated 2 days later. My mom called me at 8:13 a.m. Her voice was sharp, not broken, not apologetic. How could you do this? She demanded. A lawyer? Really? Yes, I said simply. She's your sister. She's a criminal. She's hurting Melody, and now you're humiliating her. She humiliated herself when she forged my name and used my savings to buy a luxury car. There was a long pause. Then she said, Your father and I are extremely disappointed. I hung up. Because that sentence, that was nothing new. What was new was not caring. The following week, the letter reached Lily. She didn't call, she posted. A thinly veiled Instagram story with a black screen and white text. Some people value money over blood, but God sees the truth. #family first, #betrayal hurts. The irony was laughable. Michael's office contacted the dealership where Lily had purchased the car, Lux Auto Imports, and served them a subpoena requesting documentation. Their legal counsel responded faster than expected. Apparently, they'd had issues with fraudulent down payments before and didn't want the heat. Within 72 hours, we had confirmation. The cashier's check was processed under my name. The car was registered to Lily. The remaining balance was financed under a joint cosign by my parents. It was all there, every signature, every lie, every thread tying them together. The bank also wrapped up their investigation. While the override was technically legal due to teller discretion, they admitted that proper protocols hadn't been followed. They offered to fully reimburse the stolen funds to a new secured account under Michael's oversight in exchange for a non-disclosure agreement about their internal error. I agreed, because the money was never the point. The money was fuel, the real fire was truth, and the fire was spreading. That Friday, Lily received notice of the pending civil suit. My lawyer also flagged the possibility of pressing criminal charges unless she entered negotiations within 5 days. I knew that would get her attention. It did. 3 hours later, she called. I didn't pick up. She texted, How could you do this to me? I replied, You did this to yourself. She tried the guilt route, then rage, then pity. I didn't respond again, because something in me had snapped. For years, I thought being the strong one meant absorbing the damage. But I finally realized, real strength is knowing when to stop playing the role people cast you in. The dealership revoked the sale pending investigation, and the Porsche was repossessed by the end of the month. Lily posted a tearful video saying people were trying to ruin her life, but it didn't gain much traction. Even her followers were catching on. Meanwhile, my parents doubled down. They sent me a formal letter, not handwritten, not even a phone call, stating they were disappointed in my actions and temporarily stepping back from communication for the sake of family peace. Peace. The word tasted bitter. What peace had they ever protected for me? Michael was thrilled with our progress. You're making history in this family, he joked. I wasn't laughing, because underneath the victories, the restored money, the legal wins, was a hollow ache that no lawsuit could fix. I didn't just lose money. I lost the fantasy that my family had my back. That deep down, they loved me the way I needed to be loved, not for what I could provide, but for who I was. But sometimes, The only way to see clearly is through smoke. And now I was watching every bridge burn behind me, not with regret, but with resolve, because I wasn't going back, not this time. They didn't cut me off with rage. They cut me off with silence. After the dealership took the Porsche back, after the bank returned my money and the legal letters kept coming, my parents stopped speaking to me. No dramatic farewell, no, we're done with you, just absence. Calls went unanswered. Texts left on read. Birthday came and went without a card. I found out through a cousin's Facebook post that they threw Lily a healing brunch a week after the repossession, complete with mimosas, a personalized cake, and a caption that read, "True strength is how you rebuild after betrayal, right?" Because apparently I was the betrayer, not Lily who stole my identity, not them who handed her my passwords like candy on Halloween. Me, the one who said no for the first time in my life. I used to think silence was neutral, but silence can scream louder than shouting ever could. And this was weaponized silence. Jordan called it what it was, emotional exile. "They're punishing you by pretending you don't exist," she said. "That's how enablers work. When the scapegoat stops cooperating, they freeze you out." And I felt it. Everywhere. At family events, people avoided eye contact. Aunts said things like, "Well, I hope you and your sister work it out." Cousins whispered. One even unfollowed me on Instagram, and then came the Thanksgiving text, a group message from Mom. "We'll be having Thanksgiving dinner at 3 p.m. at the house. Lily will be there. Please don't come if you're still pursuing the lawsuit. We want a peaceful holiday. No, we miss you. No, let's talk. Just don't come." I read that message over and over like it might morph into something else if I stared long enough. I'd never missed Thanksgiving with my family, ever, even during college exams. Even when I had the flu, even the year I had to bring my own to-go container and eat outside because Lily was sensitive to gluten and stress. But this year, I didn't go. I sat in my new apartment, smaller than the house I'd originally planned for, but mine, curled up on the couch, watching reruns of Chopped and drinking wine out of a mug because I hadn't unpacked the wine glasses yet. And then Jordan called. Her voice was sunshine. "My mom made too much stuffing. Again. Come over?" I told her everything. She already loves you. So I did. I spent Thanksgiving surrounded by laughter that didn't come with a side of guilt. Her brother grilled me about investment apps. Her grandma taught me how to properly carve a turkey. I sat at a table where no one asked me to apologize for standing up for myself. And for the first time in months, I felt full, not just with food, but with belonging. Still, the ache didn't vanish. I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss them, even after everything. That's the thing about family wounds. They don't just scab over. They linger. They pulse. They ache in the quiet moments, especially when the person hurting you still gets to play the victim. Lily's social media became a stage for martyrdom. Cryptic quotes, sad selfies, vague captions like, "Some storms you weather alone," and people show their true colors when money's involved. She never mentioned the lawsuit directly. But she didn't have to. Everyone knew. She wanted them to know. Because if I was the villain, she got to be the brave survivor. It stung. But I stayed quiet. Because I was done arguing with a narrative that was never meant to be fair. Instead, I put my energy into rebuilding. I bought a bookshelf and filled it with every financial guide I'd ever loved. I repainted the kitchen cabinets myself. I planted herbs in the window box, basil, mint, and rosemary, just to reclaim that scent from my childhood. I worked with Michael to finalize the civil suit. He added emotional distress and legal fee reimbursement to the claim. It wasn't petty, it was precedent. Because if she did it to me, she'd do it again. And maybe, just maybe, this would finally stop her. But the hardest part wasn't legal. It was emotional. It was realizing that some families don't need time to heal. They need truth to shatter the fantasy. and I was no longer interested in protecting the fantasy. So I braced myself for the long road ahead. No contact. No apologies, no closure, just the quiet resolve of someone who had finally fully chosen herself. I didn't realize how much of my life I'd spent holding my breath until I finally exhaled. For years, I'd lived in tension, quiet, invisible tension, the kind that coils in your shoulders, lingers in your gut, and lives behind every polite smile and "I'm fine" text, always ready for the next favor I couldn't say no to, the next emotional cleanup I hadn't signed up for. But now, for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't waiting for permission to breathe. The house I ended up buying wasn't the one from the Zillow listing. That dream got derailed, thanks, Lily, but what I found instead felt even more like mine. It was a 2-bedroom cottage on the east side of Austin, a little smaller, a little older, the kind of place with creaky floorboards and overgrown rose bushes out front. The walls needed repainting, the kitchen needed work, but it was solid, real. Like me. I painted the living room by myself, pale oak, 2 coats, with a shaky roller and a podcast in my ears. I assembled every piece of IKEA furniture without help. I didn't cry once over the missing screws. I made this place mine. Jordan came over one weekend with a toolbox and a bottle of rosé, and we hung curtain rods while laughing about our worst dates. She brought me a doormat that said, "No drama past this point." Fitting, because that's what this house became for me, the boundary I never had growing up. A space where no one barged in asking for money or forgiveness they hadn't earned. A space where silence wasn't used as punishment, but as peace. And the more I built that world for myself, the less I craved theirs. Lily tried once more to reach out, an email this time, long, flowery, filled with phrases like, "I've been working on myself," and "I miss the old us." But nowhere in the message was the word sorry. Not for the money, not for the betrayal, not for looking me in the eye and saying, "You'll bounce back," so I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because sometimes healing isn't about mending what was torn. Sometimes it's about knowing which wounds were meant to stay closed. My parents didn't reach out after the judgment was finalized. Michael had negotiated a settlement. Lily would pay back a portion of the funds over 5 years, with interest. Her credit was wrecked. Her influencer deals dried up. The shine was gone. But I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate, because none of this felt like victory. It felt like growing up, finally. I learned that boundaries don't make you cruel, they make you whole. That saying no isn't betrayal, it's survival. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from people who only love the version of you that serves them. Now, every morning, I sit on my front porch with a cup of coffee and a journal. I write down what I want my life to look like. Not in 10 years, not in 5, just today. Peaceful, honest, mine. They always called me strong. Every time I swallowed a slight, bent myself backward, picked up someone else's mess, they'd look at me and say, "You're just so strong, Melody." And for a long time, I wore that word like armor. I let it justify why I got less. Why I was expected to sacrifice. Why I was the one cleaning up the emotional debris of a family who had always treated me like Plan B. But here's what no one tells you about being the strong one. Eventually we break too. Quietly, completely, and when we do, it's not loud or theatrical. It's not some dramatic breakdown people see coming. It's a calm decision. It's a boundary drawn in steel. It's saying, enough. It's filing the paperwork, changing the locks, blocking the number, calling the lawyer. It's walking away without a dramatic goodbye, because the goodbye already happened in your heart years ago, when you realized you were loving people who only loved what you gave them. I didn't take my sister to court to punish her. I did it to reclaim the version of myself I had lost trying to earn a place at a table that had always been uneven. And in doing so, I found something better than approval. I found peace. So if you're watching this and you've spent your life being the responsible one, the fixer, the giver, the one who never gets checked on because everyone assumes you're fine, I want you to hear this. You are allowed to need help. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to say, "This isn't fair." And most importantly, you are allowed to walk away from anyone, yes, even family, who makes you feel like love is conditional. Because the strongest thing you'll ever do is choose yourself. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love, even when it broke your heart? I want to hear your story. Drop a comment below and let's talk about what it means to choose healing over history. And if this story spoke to you, don't forget to like and subscribe. You're not alone.